Back with our breaking news story right now, the crash of that Germanwings flight 9525 in the French Alps. NBC's Alistair Jamieson covering the developments from London. What is the latest, Alistair?
That's right, Ari. Within the last couple of hours, investigators have located one of the black boxes of this crashed German plane. It's in a very remote location in the French Alps. Teams had to get to the scene by helicopter to try and find the wreckage. And they've also located, so far, some of the bodies, and one of the investigators who flew over the site in a helicopter said the aircraft has been ripped apart and the bodies are in a state of destruction. So clearly a very high impact there into the French Alps. And you heard earlier on President Obama there at the press conference talking about the nationalities of those on board, mostly French and Spanish, although US officials are working to confirm if any US citizens are on board. We also know that among those on board were a party of high school students from Germany, 16 of them from the Düsseldorf area, and 2 babies among the 150 people in that Germanwings airline crash. The plane took off this morning at around about 10 o'clock local time from Barcelona en route to Düsseldorf. And it was only about 45 minutes into its flight when it appeared to make a rapid descent. And in the course of 8 minutes, descended from 38,000 feet, its cruising altitude, down to 6,000 feet, roughly the height of the mountain where this wreckage has been found. No distress signal was sent. And that's really what investigators must now surely be focusing on, is what happened, that pilots knew there was something perhaps wrong with the aircraft, or they were in a difficult situation to begin their descent, but were unable to alert anyone to what had gone wrong, or indeed to tell them what had happened. And that's the latest from us, Ari.
NBC's Alistair Jamieson reporting from London. Thank you. The Airbus A320 is, of course, a very popular jet. There are about 6,200 of them currently in operation around the world. Now, the vast majority of takeoffs, of course, end in perfectly smooth landings, but there are also always room for error. MSNBC's Francis Rivera has been looking at this today and looking at the past issues with the A320 series. Francis, tell us about your reporting.
Well, you've heard about this. The A320 is the workhorse of modern aviation. It's for flights with duration times of 5 to 1 hour, as little as that. And like you said, the A320 has a really good safety record. Okay, how good? Let's break it down. Just 0.14 fatal accidents per million takeoffs. That's according to Boeing's safety analysis. But over the years, there have been some highly publicized crashes that we want to bring to you. Of course, you'll remember in December of just last year, Air Asia Flight 8501, the flight between Indonesia and Singapore, lost contact en route. The crew had just requested a change in altitude and route to avoid the poor weather there. It fell into the Java Sea off the coast of Indonesia, and all 155 people on board were killed. Now, January of 2009, what we now know as the Miracle on the Hudson, U.S. Airways 1549, taking off from New York to Charlotte, North Carolina, when the aircraft struck a flock of birds. Power to both engines went out. Pilot Sully Sullenberger successfully landed the plane in the Hudson River, and all 155 people on board survived after evacuating the aircraft on the water. You remember the iconic images of those passengers on the wing here. Now, to July of 2007, TAM Flight 3054 crashed in Sao Paulo, Brazil. One of the 2 thrust reversers here on this plane had been deactivated before the flight, so the plane landed way too fast, shot past the runway and into a major road, crashing into a concrete building and caught on fire. Here you see the image of the aftermath from that crash. All 187 people on the plane were killed, as well as several people on the ground. And in June of 1988, a crash during an air show. Air France Flight 296 failed to gain height and crashed into the trees while performing a maneuver in Habertheim, France there. 3 people were killed, but keep in mind there were 133 passengers on the plane who survived. Initially, pilot error was blamed in that crash, but later it was determined that the plane's flight data recorder had been substituted after the crash, and that threw doubt into the investigation. And earlier that same year, in 1988, the A320 commercially launched, and right away manufacturers sold many of them. And guys, it has been the fastest selling plane in the world for several years. So you imagine how many there are out there and how many flights they take off, on a daily basis. But yet you have these handful of these incidents that were just so awful to hear about, including the one that happened today.
Indeed, helpful to have that context. MSNBC's Francis Rivera, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And let's now bring in remote expedition specialist Christine Dennison. She's founder of Mad Dog Expeditions here in New York, and also with us is former NTSB investigator Greg Feith. Thank you both so much for being with us. And Christine, if I could start with you and your expertise. Obviously, this debris field spread across the French Alps. It's a very wide debris field. How do those conditions complicate the investigation that's now going on?
Oh, it's tragic. At this point, what you have is very difficult terrain. You've got bad weather hampering it. You have search teams that really can't even access this area. So what they're doing is, from what I'm seeing, is just they're trying to get them as close as they possibly can to get eyes on the ground, to be able to hike their way into this area and photograph, video, whatever they can send back up to get a clearer picture of what they're dealing with, which is a tremendous tragedy.
Yeah, Christine, one challenge, recovering all this stuff in a normal situation, difficult. In the French Alps, complex terrain, remote area, very difficult. The next challenge, though, is reassembling all these pieces of this plane that has disintegrated almost. How do you do that?
Well, right now they're working with, I believe they're the best in the business for this, would be like mountain recovery, search and recovery teams that have either rappelled down or been dropped off as closely as they can to get to that site. And what we're seeing is you have as many people as they can get close to the debris field, being able to ascertain where they have to go from here. And it's just one big disaster for them. You can't get machines into this area at this point, so you really are using people looking, digging, searching, and mapping out. And sending back so that they can form a grid system. And then they're going to go back in and do it in terms of what they need, what's the most important, the black box. They've located it, they have to recover it. They have to find a way to get it out and get it up that hill or up to a helicopter that can bring it back. So they're going to be doing this very methodically, very carefully, and probably very slowly.
Yeah, and that's the most important next step here, Greg, is getting the black box and figuring out what information is on that to help us better understand what happened here. Based off of what we do know, though, what is running through your head? What are some of the big questions that seem somewhat unusual from what we know?
The fact that there was no radio communication. You know, Tom and John had talked earlier about some problem that happened up at altitude. We don't know if that problem actually occurred at altitude at 38,000 feet, or the crew was having to deal with something on the way up and the airplane just topped out or leveled off at 38,000. But it is evident that it was a commanded pitch over. If it was an uncontrolled pitch over, you'd expect to see the speed much higher and the descent rates much higher. So it was a high-speed impact. There's no flight crew that would intentionally fly their airplane into a geographic area knowing the terrain there. Plus, they have enhanced ground proximity warning systems. So as they start to get closer to this high terrain, there are going to be a number of warnings going off in that cockpit that says terrain, terrain, pull up, because they're getting into an area of high terrain. So there's a lot of circumstance here that hopefully a flight data recorder, cockpit voice recorder will help us solve.
Right, Greg, you're emphasizing the terrain. We've been showing these videos all day and reporting on this. It is scary. It is obviously not the kind of terrain that anyone would want to have a flight problem in. And we've covered how difficult it'll make the rescue process if there's anything to rescue beyond simply the forensics. Speak to us, in addition, beyond the terrain, about the timeline. What can you glean from the fact that all of this occurred, according to the information we have at this hour, within about the first 40 minutes of the flight?
It just says to me that, in fact, there was an issue that the crew may have been dealing with. The curious thing, of course, is why the crew didn't communicate in any way, shape, or form with air traffic controller as to what problem they may have been dealing with. Even if it was in brevity, even if they said, to the air traffic controller, we've got an issue up here, we'll get back to you in response to air traffic communication. So there's some things going on that either dominated the flight crew's time or it inhibited their ability to communicate with the ground. In 1985, I climbed a 21,000-foot mountain when Eastern Airlines lost the 727. It was a high-speed impact. It was a cruise descent going into La Paz, and it spread wreckage over 1,000 feet in both directions, both vertically and horizontally. There were very small pieces of the aircraft. We had attempted to get the flight data recorder and cockpit voice recorder, but short of not being able to get that, we still had enough information to make a determination as to what happened. And I I think that with the physical evidence, that may not tell us what happened, but cockpit voice recorder, flight data recorder should shed light on this.
And Greg, some of the details that you're speaking to, in particular, the fact that there was no radio communication, but also the fact that they, started the descent in this area. Do any of those details lead you to believe that the crew may have been incapacitated? And what sort of conditions could lead to a crew being incapacitated?
It's a good question. The fact is that this airplane, when you look at the descent profile, 3,000–4,000 feet per minute, is not unusual. It's unusual for a high altitude unless it's commanded that the crew is trying to react to a pressurization issue or possibly smoke or fire in the aircraft. But it was a sustained, pretty steady state type descent. The airspeed, or actually in this case it's the ground speed because we're pulling it off radar data, was relatively consistent. The question is why they didn't level out well above that terrain. Again, they would have had warnings. They would have known what the geography was, and especially with the onboard EGPWS, it would have been telling them you're getting into an area of high terrain, whoop, whoop, pull up, caution, caution, if you will. And it's apparent that the crew didn't react to that. We don't know why, whether they were physically incapacitated or they weren't able to command the airplane to recover.
Greg Feith and Christine Dennison, thank you both for your expertise. Next up.